You're very welcome along to the Matchbook Football Podcast. Hard to believe we're already at game week 6 of the Premier League season. I'm your host, Daniel Hussey, joined as ever by the dynamic duo of Mark O'Haire and Adrian Clarke, and the dynamic, profitable duo this season. We're going to tweet out just the results in terms of keeping track this season, not just of best bets, but overall bets, and we'll have them in subcategories as well. But the headlines are 10% ROI from the guys, and you would be up 8 units if you had a unit on every bet put up throughout the season. So full details, you can go to our Twitter page as well. I might link that in the description as well. So props to Mark and Adrian. Profitable start to the season, but we know anything variance is always around the corner, as Mark says. So we will proceed with caution. Before we get going, some pretty decent games once again in the Premier League. Insights.matchbook.com. You can have a full recap of all those bets to keep track yourself. Hit that like button or follow completely for free wherever you're watching or listening. And reminder, it is the most generous new customer offer. If you haven't got a Matchbook account yet, you can enter the bonus code POD50. That's POD50, exclusive to podcast listeners. Remember that bonus code POD50, and you'll get £50 worth in free bets when you bet 50. Full T's and C's on screen now if you're watching on YouTube or on matchbook.com. 4 games we're going to cover: Chelsea, Brighton, Crystal Palace versus Liverpool, Forest versus Sunderland, lads. But we'll start with Newcastle versus Arsenal. Adrian, might get your thoughts on the City game and then lead into a selection here. I mean, Arteta was criticised for his defensive approach, given the starting lineup, recovered it well. City then went defensive. There was a lot in that 90 minutes, I thought.
Yeah, there was. Yeah, I think personally it was probably a fair result. I think that City's off the ball work was actually really good. They impressed me, and for that reason, I think they warranted it, even though Pep went to the lowest of low blocks, something we've really not seen before from him. Showed huge respect to Arsenal, didn't he? And it shows how far Arsenal have come, because go back a few years, the start of the Arteta regime, it would have been the other way around. Arsenal would have had, no alternative but to try and low block Man City. So it's changed around. And I didn't love the starting 11. I actually thought Trossard ended up playing pretty well. I didn't love the Marino pick. I thought that it was an occasion where getting a more creative player on the pitch against City would have helped. But credit Arteta, because he recognised it and he changed it at half time. So Arteta shouldn't be getting too much criticism at all for this. And do you know what? I don't think Pep should either. It was a match neither team could really afford to lose, and in the end, I think they'll settle for it. So yeah, it was a good game. Not a beautiful game, but an interesting match. It won't be a beautiful game at St James's Park, I don't think. I mean, not judging by recent meetings between these two, they don't like each other. There's a bit of beef there, and Eddie Howe's definitely had the Indian sign over Mikel Arteta, who's made it really hard for Arsenal in recent seasons, and going to St James's Park has been a bit of a nightmare for Arsenal, hasn't it? I think 3 defeats in a row, haven't scored in any of those games, all tight matches, when Newcastle nullified Arsenal's football. So what is Arteta going to come up with here? I think personally, the way to beat Newcastle is to out-football them. So what I'm saying by that is I want to see a creative lineup rather than a lineup that can handle Newcastle's aggression, if that makes sense. So I do want that number 10 in there, and I want Arsenal to try and play really sharp football around Newcastle, get them chasing, rather than allowing it to become a scrap. Because if it's a scrap, Newcastle have got every chance of doing what they've done to Arsenal in the past. So yeah, it's a difficult match to predict. I'm going to go. I'll tell you what I'm going to go with first, and I'll explain why. I'm going to go with both teams to score no, which is 1.95, which is absolutely sitting on the fence because I don't know who's going to win this. I can't really back Arsenal given this is a bit of a bogey fixture, but at the same time, I do think Arsenal have a chance. So I'm not going to go near the scoreline, but I do think there's every chance that there'll be a blank here from either side. This bet landed in all 4 meetings last season. Obviously in the League Cup, 2-legged tie as well. Both teams have scored no, landed in all of those. Going back further, wait for this one. In 16 of the last meetings, 15 I've seen both teams to score no land, which is nuts, isn't it? Really, I mean, it's going against all likelihood, all probabilities. So this is a fixture where one team scores and then they shut it down. So let's hope, from my perspective, Arsenal score first and they shut it out. But I do think it'll be a tight game. These are two really good defences. Newcastle have got 4 clean sheets in 5, of course. They've faced the fewest shots in the division so far, Newcastle. Newcastle have the lowest XG against, 2.55. Arsenal have the second lowest, 3.28. These are basically the 2 best defensive teams in the league. So, yeah, I think it will be tight. But I'm gonna, I'm not like I say, I'm not going to say who's going to win, but I think it'll be low scoring. It could be 0-0. It could be 1-0 either way. Possibly 2-0, and all of those bets land here. I think the 1-0 is the only real one that I think kills us with this selection. So at 1.95, I'm happy to go in with that.
Okay, both teams to score no. A trend selection there for Adrian and Mark. You're on similar lines here. You're not expecting a classic.
No, for all the reasons Adrian's outlined already. So there's not a huge amount I can really add. But I'm looking forward to this from a neutral perspective, because, as you guys have sort of hinted at, there is a bit of needle between these two teams. A bit of a rivalry is brewing, and the matches at St James's Park have been quite feisty, quite controversial at times between these two teams over recent years. Newcastle will be up for this. They'll feel they can do a job on Arsenal again. 4 wins in the last 5 meetings now at St James's between the two. They've won all of those matches to 0 when you include the League Cup semi-final last season. So yeah, they've been a bit of a bogey team. The matches, for me, have been quite good fun to follow. There's plenty of action involved. Might not necessarily be a huge amount of goals or entertainment, but it's been scrappy. 8 of the last 11 meetings have seen at least 4 cards. 5 of the last 8 have seen 5 or more, and the last 4 head-to-head have seen an average of 5.75 cards. And at St James's Park, the last 3 meetings have seen card totals of 5, 8, and 6. So I'm expecting a repeat of that, to be honest. Scrappy, low scoring, tight. Jared Gillette is the referee here. He's not the best official for cards, but I'll be targeting at least 4 cards in this match, knowing how these two teams operate and how recent head-to-heads have gone. So over 3.5 cards is the first leg of a 2-part bet builder for me. I'm going to partner it alongside under 3.5 goals. We're getting 1.9 on those 2 selections together. 8 of these 2 teams combined 10 Premier League games thus far have gone under 3.5 goals, include the Champions League, and that hit rate goes to 10 from 12. As Adrian says, both sides have been very much built from the back so far this season. Both managers have been kind of criticised for their conservatism, their cautious approach in certain matches. I defended Mikel Arteta and his record in big games following that Liverpool match. But I was really disappointed by the team selection last weekend. I thought he got his starting 11 well wrong. I thought there was an opportunity for Arsenal to sort of go at Man City, be the aggressors. There's been a touch of or an element of vulnerability about City again this season, and they didn't get to sort of stamp their authority on that game because of that team selection. They had to wait until the 32nd minute for the first shot in the game, and I just didn't think that was good enough, even with Ødegaard missing. And I think he might be due back this weekend, so that's a big plus. But as we've said many times before, Arsenal are very, very difficult to beat. That Liverpool loss earlier in the season was just their 3rd and 21 away days in the Premier League going back to the start of last season. Obviously, they have that tricky record at Newcastle, but I still kind of count on them to go to St James's and be competitive and be very difficult to beat yet again. So just in terms of the price, I did feel they were slightly short here. What is it, 222 now on the match for exchange? Liverpool were 235 and Barcelona were 2.7 in that Champions League game when they drifted like a barge on the day of the game. So look, Newcastle restricted Liverpool to just 6 shots here despite that 3-2 defeat. So they are capable. They've got Anthony Gordon back from suspension as well. They'll have the cavalry back after Eddie Howe made 7 changes at Bournemouth. That midfield will be fresh and ready to go yet again. So yeah, this isn't going to be easy for Arsenal, but likewise, I don't think Newcastle will find it too easy to penetrate this Arsenal defence, which I believe is the best in Europe. So I've made the case for going high on the cards and going low on the goals. 10 of the last 11 meetings between these two teams have gone under 2.5 goals. 2 of the last 22 have gone over 3.5 goals. So very similar sort of stats to what Adrian's already outlined with the BTTS. No, these matches don't tend to escalate. So under 3.5 goals and over 3.5 cards is 1.9, and that would be my best bet.
Okay, let's lock that in, and we're going to combine the two guys' selections in our £10 money back special. Bet this bet builder treble on Matchbook, and if it loses, you get your money back as a free bet within 48 hours. Full T's and C's on insights.matchbook.com. We are going for under 3.5 goals, over 3.5 cards, both teams to score. No, that's 3.0 shot, gets us the 1-0, 2-0, 3-0, and then the cards as well. So very much check that out on insights.matchbook.com if you want to get involved. Now, they've really front loaded some of the games this week in the 3 p.m. slot. Chelsea versus Brighton, Adrian. I mean, we couldn't really not cover these next two games we're going to cover. I know they're not on TV, but yeah, Chelsea versus Brighton. Currently, Chelsea 183 at home to Brighton, who, it has to be said, we never really give the EFL Cup a mention, but they did win 6-0 away to Barnsley with 4 incredible goals.
Diego Gomez got the 4. I mean, absolutely sensational individual performance from him. I remember seeing him at the Etihad last season, game I was at, and I thought, he looks a good player. But I didn't realize he was that good. So we'll see. Yeah, let's see if he can kick on. But he looks like a prospect to me. Yeah, this is the sort of played for both derby, isn't it? Chelsea, Brighton. A lot of transfers from Brighton to Chelsea. It'll be interesting to see what happens. I think goals. I'm feeling goals here. Both teams have scored in 4 of their 5 matches to this point. Brighton have been a bit leaky, to be honest, away from home, haven't they? Obviously, they're letting 2 at Everton, but could have scored lots of goals in that game themselves. They also let in 2 at Bournemouth and did score. And let's face it, Chelsea away is probably a tougher game than Everton and Bournemouth away. So, yeah, you would think that Chelsea will definitely get on the score sheet, but Brighton are good going forward. You know, got a lot of excellent attackers, and they have scored in 9 of their last 10 meetings with Chelsea. So it's a fixture that they're used to scoring in. And by the way, on Chelsea, expecting Chelsea to score, because both teams to score is going to be part of my bet builder here. Chelsea have scored at home in 28 of their last 29 matches at Stamford Bridge. They blanked, of course, at home to Palace on the opening weekend. And the only previous time they blanked was on the opening weekend of last season, when it was City that beat them at home 2-0. So they almost always score. I think both teams score. It feels right to me. What can I pair it with to make it a better price? I'm definitely going cards. I think that you look at the nature of the two teams. Both are very aggressive, and they make a lot of fouls. They're sort of in the top group of teams in terms of most fouls. Brighton, I think, are the 3rd most prolific foulers. In terms of cards, they're both in the top 5 as well. Very high card counts from Brighton and Chelsea this season. And the gaffer, I was going to say gaffer, it's not a gaffer, is it? It's the referee anyway, whoever the man in the middle is Simon Hooper. And he's averaging 5.5 cards per game, the most of all Premier League refs so far this season. So it kind of adds up. And I always think Hertzler as well. He's such a wind-up merchant, isn't he? I always think he's worth a card himself. I'm assuming managers count in terms of yellow cards. No, they don't. No. Okay, that's interesting.
Every day's a skill day, Adrian.
Yeah, no, I was going to ask Mark, but you're right on it. It doesn't matter. I still think there'll be over 3.5 cards in the game, which is not a high limit in my opinion here. So both teams score and over 3.5 cards, because I don't know who's going to win. I'm not confident on Chelsea or Brighton, to be honest. But that little combo there comes in at 2.1, and I like it because, I can see both scenarios occurring.
Okay, let's lock that in at 2.1. Mark, you're under similar lines and a little bit of a bet builder once again. We do get a lot of questions, Mark, on the value of bet builders, and they're perceived as mug selections. We do cover this maybe once or twice a season, but lead into your selection as to why you feel you can eke out value on similar outcomes, putting them all together in a bet builder.
It's a big question to unpack. I mean, if you've got a strong opinion, and if you're of an opinion that, for me, for example, I do a lot of cards and goals-based betting and like to combine the two. I do enter bet builders quite a lot for various reasons, one of which is probably whether it's worth saying publicly, but it kind of goes under the radar with traders and compilers. The guys we want to try and avoid when it's down to detected, because accounts and keeping them alive are so important these days that, if you're just betting straight goal lines or card lines early in the week or even near kickoff, really, and you're clearly getting value on those prices, you're going to be targeted quite early doors. Your account might not stay alive too much. So the way in which I play it is to go under the radar, go into the bet builders, as you say. They are considered to be sort of a muggy alternative, and sort of place things that way because it does tend to go a little bit more undetected. And there still is value to be had there because they are sort of two separate bets. Obviously, they all have their separate sort of value, if you like. But if you combine the two, you can sort of double that value up and get a much better, bigger price in the process of it. I've probably not done a great way of explaining that, but we can revisit it another time and I can explain sort of the full reasoning behind it, because there's a number of reasons and ways in which I play the betting markets these days, and most often of them is to go through the bet builder for a number of different reasons. But in terms of this play, I mean, you've made me go second again, and Adrian's stolen my thunder yet again with all the good stuff. So yeah, I actually initially struggled with a selection on this game because I wasn't quite in love with Chelsea or Brighton, even at the prices, to be fair. And I sort of plumped for what could be considered a bit of a muggy bet builder play, but it's something I've kind of grown to really like, and I'm quite happy to support it now on the podcast and say my bet here is quite similar to Adrian's, over 1.5 goals, under 4.5 goals, and over 3.5 cards. Just on Chelsea, I think it's been a worrisome sort of week or 10 days, really. If you go back to the Brentford game, Maresca made a public admission that he made the mistakes with his starting 11. He denied it was the fact they were playing Bayern Munich in the week. But from the outside, that's definitely what it looked like. And his team were second best, really, in a game, might be a derby or whatnot, but a game that they should really be winning. They then had the moments in Munich, but I thought, again, Maresca wasn't really reactive enough in that game, allowed his players to tire and sort of allowed Bayern to get on top. And it wasn't until Bayern scored again that, he sort of made his moves, and it was a little bit too late then. And then at Old Trafford last week, it was just bizarre, really. Those 3 substitutions in the first 21 minutes. I mean, Sanchez showed what a liability he is between the sticks, and just the Palmer substitution, very strange all round, really. And whilst they battled back when it was 10v10, I thought they were pretty unconvincing, even when it was 11v11 at the start. So, and then, in midweek, I don't really look too deeply into the cup competitions, but he played a semi-strong side at Lincoln and really struggled, particularly in that first 45 minutes, comprehensively outshot and outfought by a third-tier team. And if you exclude that cup game, they've only won twice in 6 this season. And whilst their Stamford Bridge record has been quite encouraging this calendar year, the eye tests, for me, suggest that they're still very much a work in progress. So, and then you look at Brighton. Can we really trust them? 1 clean sheet in 17 Premier League matches suggests probably not. Their best player, Carlos Baleba, has been a shadow of himself, substituted at half-time twice now in the last 4 games. I think Jack Hinchelwood's injury as well just disrupts that midfield even further, and that's a real area of strength for Chelsea. So that would be a concern if you're going to be pro-Brighton here. But so far this season, they've picked up 5 points from 5 games. That's 4 fewer than they had at this stage last season, and 10 fewer than the corresponding fixtures from last year when they won all 5 of the fixtures that they played this season. So, they've obviously had their moments, but they're yet to win the XG count in any of their Premier League matches when you exclude penalties. So they're definitely not reaching the same standards we associate with them. So, my muggy bet builder, over 3.5 cards, over 1.5 goals, under 4.5 goals, comes in at 2.05. So you're basically looking at 2-0, 3-0, 4-0, 2-1, or 3-1 for either side, as well as the 1-1, 2-2 draws. As Adrian says, Brighton games tend to produce goals. We're looking for just two or more here, really. And the referee, Simon Hooper, is probably the best Premier League official since the start of last season. 4 cards. He's got an 84% hit rate for over 3.5 cards in the Premier League going back to the beginning of last season. 8 of the 2 clubs combined 10 league games this season have also featured over the 3.5 cards. And these 2 teams are averaging 2.8 and 2.6 cards per game, respectively, in the Premier League. So, cards look very, very likely. And, I think we both expect goals. And hopefully for me, it goes under 4.5 goals as well.
Okay, yeah. Good way of explaining that, Mark, to be fair. Chelsea versus Brighton, that's covered. And we will go to Mark first for Palace versus Liverpool. This already feels like quite a big game in the title race. Liverpool 196 favourites away at Selhurst Park. Mark, it's the game they've been managing to dig out results so far, not just this season, but last season. Ekitike, very poor second yellow card, and it means Liverpool's hands sort of forced a bit to not only start Isak, but maybe play him for a long period of time.
Yeah, they'll have to, I guess. Yeah, there's been a lot of talk about Liverpool this season going 5 from 5 or winning all of their matches across all competitions and doing so without really hitting top gear. And I guess it's looked a little bit ominous in the title race with Arsenal and City dropping points as well. I mean, that sort of goes back to the Sir Alex Ferguson days, isn't it? They say champions can win without playing well, and that's a phrase that's been coined with Liverpool too. Going back to last season as well, where they weren't massively spectacular, sort of miles away from the heavy metal days of Jurgen Klopp, but they were effective and ruthless and consistent, which is what they've been again this season. And I think they made a necessary change in the derby to go back to the midfield three of Szoboszlai, McAllister and Gravenberch. I think it worked really well. Florian Wirtz still obviously finding his feet in English football, finding his way into the Liverpool system. I expect them to go with something similar again this weekend because this won't be easy. As you say, Ekitike now suspended after that ridiculous red card in midweek. Is Isak 100%? Probably not. I know he scored in midweek and he's looked pretty sharp when he's been in possession, but unlikely to be at his best for 90 minutes. And whilst they're obviously very, very fair favourites to win this match, I just don't think it'll be straightforward for them. So I'm actually going to oppose Liverpool this weekend, getting almost evens on Palace with a half-goal start here, which for me was a more appealing play than backing Liverpool at a similar sort of price as the away team. Just because, unbelievably, this is the only fixture involving the two remaining unbeaten teams in the Premier League. And I think Palace's form now, people are starting to sort of shine a light on it, but it's been remarkably good for quite some time. 17 games unbeaten, their second longest unbeaten streak in history, which goes back to 1969. That was 18 games, which obviously means this match is quite significant. And only 3 teams outside of the Big Six have enjoyed a longer unbeaten run since the Premier League sort of was established in 1992. So it's been a remarkable run. In that run, they've avoided defeat against Chelsea, beaten Liverpool at Wembley, held Liverpool at Anfield, beaten Man City, Spurs, Villa, held Arsenal at the Emirates as well. So they've been well tested as well, and they've just been brilliant, really. They've picked up the 7th most points in the Premier League since Oliver Glasner was appointed. And, you look at Man United and Ruben Amorim trying to sort of fit together a system. Well, we've got Oliver Glasner's team here, just totally suited to his 3-4-2-1. Got 3 really solid centre-backs, all got sort of their own key strengths, excellent wing-backs, proper protection in central midfield as well. And just provides a fantastic platform to sort of feed Mateta up top, who's been in unbelievable form since Glasner came in. So, I looked at the numbers. Dean Henderson's only averaging 1.6 saves per game this season, which is the 3rd lowest, which kind of goes to show how well protected he has been as well. And Ismaila Sarr is due back this weekend. And I think having only narrowly lost this match last season, obviously they've gone to Anfield then and got a point and then also beaten them in the Community Shield. I think they can follow up those performances again and deny Liverpool 3 points. It wouldn't be a huge shock to me if Palace pick something up from this match. So I think the draw is a big runner at a really nice price, but I'll keep it relatively simple because I wouldn't be hugely shocked if Palace did do some damage against Liverpool this weekend. So I'll back Palace with a half-goal start at 195.
Okay, that's the best price out there at the moment. It's on the Asian handicap betting with Matchbook. You get the benefits of the exchange value, but you can do the bet builders. And Adrian's gone into the bet builders, effectively opposing market. It's such a big game. Well, sort of, mate. It's such a big game, though, isn't it? I mean, it really should be a TV game, to be honest.
Yeah. 3 o'clock on Saturday would be interesting, wouldn't it, to follow the games. Look, I can see Liverpool slipping up here. Of course, I can, because it's a long unbeaten run, and Liverpool have not been anywhere near their best. So Mark's pick is definitely one that I could potentially get in behind, but it's Liverpool, isn't it? And the fortune that they have been having so far this season, and the quality that they've got, of course, just makes it really hard for me to oppose them. I just can't really. So I'm going to take the opposite side, but with a caveat. So I'm going to go with Liverpool double chance, covering that draw that Mark was talking about, and under 3.5 goals. Comes out at a similar price, just under actually 1.9. So you get all the draws and any kind of Liverpool win. Now, Liverpool do like Selhurst Park. I know that history doesn't always make a difference, but sometimes it can get into the heads of certain players and people, and a lot of these Liverpool players don't know none of these Liverpool players know what it feels like to lose at Selhurst Park. They've won 10, drawn 1, and lost none of their last 11 matches at Palace. It's an unbeaten run going back to 2014. So it's a lucky ground for them. And then you look at what's happening now. Palace have been very good without the ball, haven't they? The back three is excellent, and the shape is so robust. All Palace matches so far have gone under 3.5 this season. Palace matches are actually only averaging 1.6 goals a game, which is pretty meagre, isn't it? It has been an unders start to this season. 3 of Liverpool's 5 games have gone under 3.5. And interestingly, it's the last 3. After that wild start against Bournemouth and Newcastle, where it was you will score more than you, things have tightened up a bit. They've definitely made a conscious effort to be less erratic, Liverpool. The last 3 games have been low-scoring affairs, haven't they? I think Ekitike's absence is also big. It does limit their options, doesn't it, off the bench with Isak starting. I think that I'm just looking at Palace as well. They've got clean sheets, haven't they, against Chelsea away, Villa away. So look, they won't be worried about facing Liverpool and their all-star attack. I think they'll back themselves to handle it. Obviously, the Community Shield was a much more attacking game. It was 2-2 not long ago. But I do think when teams meet again quite quickly, they tend to be lower scoring as well because of that familiarity. So yeah, and look, last year's 2 league meetings contained 3 goals in total. Oliver Glasner against Arne Slot has produced pretty cagey games so far. I think there's a 1-1 and a 1-0. So it's kind of how I see it going again. So yeah, Liverpool double chance, under 3.5 goals, 1.9.
Okay, we'll lock that in. Both guys can see potentially the draw if you're looking for a bigger price on that game. And we'll move to a game that is in the TV slot, Nottingham Forest versus Sunderland. Palace, of course, getting their Conference League games underway following next Thursday away to Kiev. But Forest are away to Real Betis on Wednesday night. We're recording this Wednesday afternoon. And then they host Sunderland this weekend. Mark, your take on that? I mean, it's going to be tough to balance European football with the Premier League Wednesday to Saturday this time, but in general, it will be Thursday to Sunday this season.
Yeah, absolutely. So, as you know, I was quite vocal about putting Forest up for relegation before a ball was kicked, and I thought I made a reasonable case about the price and why I felt regression might be incoming. And a lot of that was to do with Europe as well as a few other factors too. And my mentions and DMs went into overdrive with Forest fans taking shots. It exploded again after match day 1 when they put Brentford aside pretty comfortably. But it's been quite quiet since then, actually. I don't know why. Forest fans don't seem to be getting in touch quite so much. But I mean, I think we all could see that something could brew at some point at Forest with Marinakis, and I'm not sure we all expected it to happen so soon. But yeah, he was one of the reasons I thought as well that regression could happen, but also the European commitments, which have to be taken into account, I think, going into this weekend. It's a big game for Forest on Wednesday night, going away to Real Betis. What an amazing away day for those Forest supporters in Seville. That's a very big occasion for the club and for the fans. And I do think it makes them vulnerable this weekend. So we talk about quick turnarounds and the effect that they can have. Well, last weekend, of the 6 Premier League teams involved in Champions League football, only one of those won last weekend in the Premier League. So Forest now face a quick turnaround Wednesday night in what could be a sweaty Seville night before a Saturday evening game against a buoyant and rested Sunderland side. So I think they're vulnerable here. Forest were kind of already pivoting towards a bit trying to be a bit more expansive, expressive under Nuno before he was sacked. But now under Postecoglou, the signs are definitely there that that's the way they're going to be playing. They had 17 shots against Burnley, albeit for sort of 1.25 expected goals, 8 efforts on target, which is the most they've had in the Premier League since beating Brighton 7-0. They had 63% possession, which was their highest share since promotion. But when they attacked, they sometimes left themselves vulnerable at the back, exposed to counterattacks, committing men forward as well, something that rarely sort of occurred under Nuno. And they're also still bedding in a clutch of new players. They had 3 players making their league debuts at Burnley last weekend. And with those new signings to adjust and adapt, tactical concerns to iron out, potential fatigue and tiredness, plus the fact that their City ground record at the back end of last season, at the start of this season, hasn't been completely convincing. I do think they are opposable this weekend. So Sunderland won't be easy meat at all. I was quite dubious about their prospects before a ball was kicked, and I wasn't completely convinced in what they achieved in the Championship, rode their luck in the playoffs, had a squad that was lacking top flight experience, but they brought in a lot of players. Again, I thought it might take time to integrate them all, even though the player profiles were quite impressive. And they had 7 of their 14 new signings started against Aston Villa last weekend, but it just didn't show at all. Reggie Lebris has said in pre-season he wanted to keep his identity. He wanted his team to be well organised, pragmatic, not be naive. He said there's been a real togetherness and character leadership around the group. And so far, that's what I've seen. They look like a team who are ready to battle, ready to grind, and quite difficult to oust, really. So I just think, look back to last weekend, just a great example of that. 65 minutes played with 10 men, 29% of possession, yet they deservedly got a share of the spoils against Aston Villa. They've also won the XG battle in 3 of their first 5 games, and they've got 8 points on the board, taken against quite established Premier League sides so far. And I think from a Sunderland perspective, there's been 15 previous promoted clubs in the Premier League to win 8 points or more after 5 match days, and all 8 have stayed up. So that's a nice omen for them to look forward to, and hope that they can continue in this vein. And yeah, I think at odds against, I'm quite happy to back them with a half-goal start at the City Ground on Saturday afternoon or Saturday evening. So it's 2.04 for Sunderland plus half a goal on the Asian handicap, and that will be my bet.
Okay, Asian handicap. And again, if you haven't bet on the Asian handicap, you can check out our YouTube channel. There's a full 2-minute explainer, very good video made there. Adrian, there were, like, I saw the Forest result, 1-1 away to Burnley. I sat down and watched Match of the Day. Little bit surprised that they actually did play some good football at times. There were 1 or 2 moments, Zinchenko on the ball, that is, maybe not defensively, that Ange might be putting a style and stamp on this Nottingham Forest side.
Yeah, and he will. They will, and they will find a way to get used to having more of the ball, to create more chances, to score more goals. So yeah, it will come. He's a very good manager, Ange Postecoglou. Okay, he's on a bad run at the end of his Spurs reign, and apart from that cup final, and at Forest, it hasn't all gone to plan yet. But no, I think he will get there. And I absolutely take on board all of what Mark said about the Batiste game and about Sunderland's qualities. I mean, out of possession, they've been excellent. Just written a piece on Mukiele, the centre half, who's been outstanding, and yeah, they're a tough nut to crack. There's no doubt about that. That said, this weekend they will go in without their left back, won't they? Reynaldo, who got sent off. So it means a reshuffle. So they'll either go light for light with Masuaku in at left back, or there'll be a rejig with Ballard coming in and maybe Mukiele moving to right back or left back. So there's a bit of disruption there, and that's a factor to maybe consider. I'm going to go the other way, not because I don't like Sunderland, because I agree with all Mark said about them, but because I think there is a distinction between home and away with Sunderland. Look, Robin Roofs, the goalie, had an absolute blinder, didn't he, at Crystal Palace to keep that clean sheet. He was brilliant. They were peppered really by Crystal Palace, and they lost at Burnley. Newly promoted, conceded 2 goals in that game. So not been so good away from home, and that's where I'm coming from really, because I look at the forward players, like whether it's Isidore or Mayenda, the wingers, Taubi or Lefay, and these guys haven't really done much in those 2 away games. Done pretty much nothing, to be perfectly honest. They've had 1 shot on target in those 2 away games, and that was at Burnley. They didn't have a shot on target at Crystal Palace. So I can't fully get on board with Sunderland until they show us that home and away they create chances and that they pose that threat. So for that reason, I'm going to lean to Nottingham Forest, even though their home record is patchy, even though they've got a lot of new faces that are bedding in. This is still Forest. They have a better squad than Sunderland. They have really good attacking players. They did have, as Mark said, 8 shots on target at Burnley. To put that into perspective, Sunderland had 1, remember, at Burnley. So I just think they are a better team and that they will get the job done, even though I don't suppose they'll thrash Sunderland, who have been so well organised. So I'm going to go with a tight, maybe nervy win for Ange to finally get that first home win this weekend against Sunderland. I mean, he's got to be targeting it, hasn't he? It's got to be. You look at the fixtures, it's like, right, we've got to win this one, boys. So I think they'll be pumped up. And remember, they've had a long, long time to sit on that 3-0 loss at home to West Ham at home. That was awful, but that was at the end of August, and they haven't played at the City Ground since. This is their chance to put things right and I think they'll go for it and win the game. So I'm going to go with Forest and under 4.5 because of Sunderland's excellent resilience, and that boosts the sort of 1.89 on Forest on the nose to 2.02. It's not massive, but it's a little bit, and it gets us odds against.
Okay, yeah, let's lock that in. And contrasting opinions throughout this podcast, in fairness, so some decent angles from the guys, whatever way you want to go, a listener. Any other bets now, Mark? We've got 2 selections. You can lead through them. We'll start with Strasbourg at home to Marseille. Now, Marseille were, I thought, very impressive against Real Madrid, but why are you opposing them here on the Asian handicap?
Yeah, they had a good week, gave a good account of themselves, despite losing at Real Madrid, as you say. Then they turned over PSG in that rescheduled match on Monday night in Marseille, beating them at home for the first time in 14 years. Understandably, they wanted to savour that moment, beating the enemy and impressing, actually, at the Velodrome whilst doing so. But I think there are big asterisks around that victory. For starters, PSG were without Dembele, without João Neves, Desiree Doué and Bradley Barcola. Those 4 players have scored 8 of PSG's 10 league goals this season. Now, of course, PSG could and did still field a very capable side that's well able to win that match. But Luis Enrique opted to change the formation and the system altogether. He went with a back 5, and I doubt he'll be doing it again anytime soon. It didn't work at all. PSG struggled in possession, and by the 55th minute, they had touched the ball just twice in Marseille's penalty box. Still, full credit to Marseille for making them pay. But my issue is that this is Marseille, and it would be so Marseille to follow up a sort of a era-defining win, if you like, with a sort of failure, if you like. They're an emotional club led by a very emotional head coach, and I just can't find the reasons to support them anywhere close to even money away at a really good Strasbourg side on Friday night. For me, that price just has to be opposed. So under De Zerbi, Marseille have failed to win 9 of their 19 away league games. They went 1-1-4 at the top 6 last season, including losing at Strasbourg. This season, they've already lost and failed to score at Rennes and Lyon. So for me, getting Strasbourg on side with a half-goal start, meaning we get paid out if they avoid defeat here, at 1.86 is a no-brainer, actually. Strasbourg have started the season with 4 wins from 5, including 3 clean sheets. Their only loss came in the last minute at Monaco, who are top of the table right now, a match they competed really, really well in. They had the same number of shots in the box. They had more touches in the opposition box than Monaco that day. They lost out in the last minute. And defensively, they've allowed just 7 big chances across their 5 games. And I've got them second on expected points at the moment. 7 big chances conceded. Marseille have allowed 14 by comparison. And, there still is a bit of a moody atmosphere around Strasbourg at the minute with fans protesting against Blue Co. The players and coach, though, Liam Rossigna, just continue to perform. And, they're a team that's very difficult to oust, really. They're not the most eye-catching of sides, but they're strong, they're stable, they're difficult to beat. And I'm going to back them to get something here. They've lost just twice at home in 19 Ligue 1 games under Rossigna. They've beaten Marseille, beaten PSG, beaten Lille and Lyon. They've held Lens and Nice as well at home. I don't think they're getting the respect they deserve in the market. So happy to oppose Marseille. And then, in MLS, we covered Charlotte a few weeks back and kind of going back in on them again this weekend when they host Montreal. This is Dean Smith's team. Wilfred Zaha plays for them as well, and they're enjoying a really good campaign so far, especially at home. They're third in the Eastern Conference, but they are still only 3 points above the wildcard playoff positions. So there's motivation for them to continue to play well and continue to try and win matches. They've won 9 of the last 10 games. At home, they've won 12 times from 15. They scored at least twice in 11 of those and kept 8 clean sheets. They've won the XG battle in 10 of those games. So we know that they're consistent, and they're playing a Montreal side who are rock bottom of the East and without a chance of playing finals football at the minute. So their motivation will be low. They've lost 17 of 31 overall, 8 defeats and 15 away, 7 losses in 10 at the top 16. They've lost the XG battle in 11 of 15 away. And they come into this match having lost back-to-back games at home, 2-0 against pretty mediocre opposition as well. So quite happy to go against them here and be with Charlotte. And the way I'll do that to boost the price from quite a short price, I think Charlotte are about 157 on the nose, include under 4.5 goals. So I'm getting 2.05. So each of these 2 teams have seen 5 goals or more just twice in their respective home and away fixtures this season. And this selection has paid out 10 times in Charlotte's 15 home games overall. So 1-0, 2-0, 3-0, 4-0, 2-1 or 3-1 gets us paid at 2.05.
Okay, 2 selections there from Mark and InsideStarMatchup.com. Full recap. Adrian, Championship, checking in on the Championship. A lot going on, I find. Some exciting teams to watch, some not so exciting teams to watch. Birmingham being in the latter category there. So why are you back in the unders this week with Coventry Birmingham?
Well, it's Birmingham, and Birmingham are not letting anything escalate at all. They're very well organised under Chris Davis. We know that they've spent a lot of money. They've got great ambition, but their promotion bid, and they're still targeting promotion, even though they've had a little bit of a blip lately, is based on solidity. They've faced 15 fewer shots than any other team. So that's 15 fewer than the second least, which I think is Ipswich on 55. So they've only faced 40 shots so far this season, which is very, very impressive. In terms of the expected goals against, second and third best with Coventry. So Coventry have been pretty tight at the back, given very few quality chances away, as have Birmingham, of course, as outlined. Now, Coventry have had the most shots and they've scored the most goals in the Championship. So there might be some people looking at that and thinking this is a bit of a weird pick, but it's really all about Birmingham and what they can do to their opponents. They just shut down games. They keep the ball, and they're a bit methodical, if truth be told. They've not clicked as an attacking force. They've only scored more than one goal once so far this season, Birmingham. So that's not working. But as outlined, really, really tight. 5 of their 6 games so far have gone under 2.5 goals, Birmingham City. And I was at the game where it went over 2.5 goals at Blackburn, and they scored twice in injury time. So that absolutely stank of another low-scoring game. It was only right at the end where they nicked a winner. So I can see this being, obviously this is a bit of a derby, not very far at all. I often do the drive past Coventry to Birmingham. It is a derby of sorts. Cov had a 0-0 in another derby last weekend against Leicester City. They also had a 0-0 with Hull City, a 1-0 in Norwich. So they're not averse to being involved in these tight, cagey games either. So yeah, I like unders here because it's Birmingham, really. 1.9 on under 2.5 goals.
Okay, second selection comes from League 2, and Grimsby beat Manchester United in the EFL Cup and also beat Sheffield Wednesday then the following round as well. League 2, they're in and around the playoff places where they just missed out last season, so you expect them to get the job done at home to Cheltenham.
Yeah, I do. Cheltenham are terrible. Absolutely awful. They haven't got a manager for a start. Mike Flynn got sacked, wasn't there that long, and they haven't yet brought in a replacement. So that's an issue. I always think teams with a caretaker manager, it more often goes badly than seeing a spike. Grimsby are a really strong home team. As we saw, if you beat Man United and beat Sheffield Wednesday, you're a good team, definitely. And I think their league position's a little bit false at the moment. I think they should be higher than they are. And they'll be fuming because last week they beat Sheffield Wednesday, and then at the weekend they went to Barnet and got turned over 3-0, which was really poor. Now Dave Artell is not going to like that, the manager, and he will have got stuck into his players all week. They've had that full week to prep, and I think that they will come out firing against a Cheltenham team that have been just dreadful. They've won 1, drawn 1, lost 7. They've scored 3 all season, so that's 3 goals in 9 games. Really poor. They've blanked in 6 of those 9 games as well, and they haven't got a manager. So I don't fancy Cheltenham at all. So I'm going to back Grimsby to win the game. This should be, well, it would be an absolute coupon buster if Grimsby don't win. But I want to pair it with over 8.5 corners, because Grimsby on the nose are 1.5 shots, which tells you how fancy they are. But you chuck in over 8.5 corners, that's 9 corners or more, it takes the price to 2.2. And I really like that. Why do I like corners? Well, Grimsby matches at home are averaging a lot of corners, 13.75 corners per game. Mark will tell you that's a lot, because I know he's big on his corner stat. That's the second most in League 2. But Grimsby themselves are averaging 9 corners per game at Blundell Park. So they are a pressure team. They're going to put Cheltenham on the back foot. They're going to pile it on. They're quite a direct side, and I always think a bit of directness leads to balls being put out for corners. They'll be attack minded. So they're averaging 9. themselves from that 13.75. Cheltenham away are shipping 7 corners against per game on average, and obviously they're up against the corner kings here in Grimsby. Their away matches average 9 corners per game. So look, yeah, I like the pick. I think Grimsby should absolutely win. And I was scrabbling around for what's the best thing to pair it with, and it really leapt off the page. Corners here, 2.2.
Okay, yeah, big price jump. That is in difference. If you do fancy the corners, that the case that Adrian has outlined. Long shot time, Mark. We spend a lot of time in this game, so we don't need to spend too much extra. But if you were looking for a 4.5 shot, this is the one you've picked out for the weekend.
Yeah, I mean, it was a toss-up between Palace versus Liverpool or Newcastle versus Arsenal. I've chosen Newcastle versus Arsenal, back in the draw, which I kind of alluded to in the main preview. I could make a reasonable case for siding with either team in some way or form, and I could also build a strong case for opposing goals, which I've already done with under 3.5 goals in the main play. But yeah, this fixture has a history on going very low on goals, as we already discussed, and there's 2 teams under coaches who have a recent pedigree for sort of caution and conservatism, as well as low goal counts and strong defences. So obviously we know low goal counts increase the likelihood of draws. So that's what I've done here. A low scoring draw under 2.5 goals between Newcastle and Arsenal pays 4.5. You're effectively backing the 0-0 or the 1-1 at St James's Park on Sunday.
Okay, yeah, maybe another prime time game that might just stink out the place, Newcastle. But anyway, football this year, honestly. Championship, Adrian, I mentioned the storylines, and one of them is Chris Wilder back at Sheffield United, but they're now 0-6. He's lost the game. Is there some point in the season where you have to reassess this Sheffield United team that they maybe aren't potential promotion? I know they were so close last year.
Yeah, definitely. They've got a squad that should be absolutely at least in the playoffs. I mean, it's a fabulous looking squad. Having said that, in forward areas, they look a little bit light. They certainly played like that. They haven't really created very much at all this season. So that's a problem, and obviously they can't do anything about that till January. Look, Chris Wilder will improve them. They can't get any worse. As you said, they've lost, all 6 matches, 7 if you include one in the cup. So it's been absolutely abject. Last weekend was Wilder's first match coming back to Bramwell Lane. Everyone thought, well, this is where it starts, and they got beat 1-0 by Charlton, and Charlton were by far the better team on the day, created more chances, and even though they got a late goal, it was a very, very deserved winner. So there's a lot of work to do there. The body language of the players is shocking, and more importantly than that, the confidence is rock bottom. They're not in a good space at all at the moment. And of course, they could go to Oxford this weekend and turn it all around. One of Wilder's old clubs. They could, because Oxford are one of the weaker teams in the Championship. So this might be the moment. But as a long shot, I'm backing Oxford here. I'm absolutely backing Oxford, who I don't think should be the price they are. Over 3, I think, to win at home to a team that's lost every game so far. 6.0. You can get on Oxford to win and under 2.5 goals. Now, Sheffield United have been a bit shot shy, as I've said. Oxford, not exactly high scorers themselves. So if Oxford are to get a win, I think it would probably be a low scoring one. So what we're effectively backing here is 1-0 or 2-0. Well, Sheffield United keep blanking, don't they? They've blanked in their last 5 matches. And I've played in teams that have been on barren runs when it comes to scoring goals, and it really gets into your head, and you feel like you're never going to score again. That's how they're going to come into this game. So, yeah, look, Oxford won at Bristol City away last time out. Fantastic result. They've also drawn at home to Coventry and Leicester. And Coventry and Leicester are definitely better than Sheffield United at the moment. So I give Oxford absolutely a chance here. I think they can do it. Gary Rowett's a wily operator. Oxford to win. Under 2.5 goals, 6.0.
Okay, big price put up by Adrian. We got best bets time, Mark, and Team I back at the start of the year. Chesterfield hanging in the mix in the promotion in League 2, but probably the standout side in League 2 this year has been Gillingham, top of the league.
They are top of the league, yeah, unbeaten after match day 9, 6 wins from 9, just 6 goals conceded. They're currently enjoying a 21 league game unbeaten spell under Gareth Ainsworth, which is a new club record. And yeah, they look a nice price to continue that good form. By beating Harrogate at the Priestfield on Saturday. They are 4 from 4 at home. They've conceded just once in front of their own supporters, allowing only 5 big chances. And look, there's been a bit of overperformance in what they've achieved so far this season, but it's probably more down to their sort of uncompromising style. They're quite strong, they're quite solid, direct, uncompromising, but just effective. And I have a feeling they might be able to bully their way past Harrogate, who picked up a really welcome, good win against Shrewsbury last weekend. But they conceded 16 shots at home to Shrewsbury, 9 of which came from inside the penalty area. And Shrewsbury are one of the weakest sides in that division. That result snapped a 4-game losing streak. And they too have been overachieving a bit this season. I've actually got them second bottom on expected points, second bottom on non-penalty expected goals ratio, where they've also conceded the most MPXG in the division and the most big chances. 28 big chances Harrogate have conceded in just 9 games. And that's very concerning when you're going away to the league leaders like Gillingham. If you look at their away record, it's even more alarming for me. Just 4 away days, there's small samples here, but they've allowed at least 2 expected goals in 3 of those 4. They've conceded 16 shots or more in all 4. They've allowed 61 shots in the box in total away from home and allowed 18 big chances. And the touches in the box count across those 4 fixtures read Harrogate 37, their opposition 146. Again, small samples, but all against pretty decent opposition. And Gillingham are very much in the same calibre there as a decent opponent. So I think to back Gillingham here at 1.8 to win the match, or 1.83 on the Matchbook Exchange, is a price I'm quite keen to support.
Okay, we'll lock that in. And final word to you, Adrian. Manchester City 1.19 to beat Burnley at home, but you can get, I think, around 1.8 currently on Matchbook if you pair it with both teams to score. Now, is this a trap?
Well, it might be, but it's a trap I'm willing to take. It's a heck of a jump, isn't it? It makes City backable in what looks the most obvious home banker on the Premier League card this weekend, doesn't it? You know, City have had a pretty bad start to the season, but I think they can take a lot of heart from what they did at Arsenal last weekend, where they really impressed me with their defending. And yeah, they know that they've got to start winning. You know, they've got to start winning games. They've got to win, and surely they will win at home to a Burnley side that lack a little bit up front. I look at Burnley, and yeah, they did go to Old Trafford and cause problems, and they scored twice and did well actually in that game. But I just feel if Jadon Anthony isn't doing something for them, who's going to? You know, they're missing like a Josh Brownhill that they had in the Championship, who's gone to Saudi, I think, badly. In terms of Burnley, that no sides face more shots on target. They've got the highest XG against as well, Burnley, in the division. No keeper has made more saves than Martin Dubravka. You know, they're being put under a lot of pressure, and I would expect them to be under pressure for most of this game, which makes it hard for them to score, doesn't it? Of course, they're looking at counter-attacks. But yeah, as I said, City did impress me. I think they are better out of possession this season with Pep Lijnders there alongside Pep Guardiola. I think he has improved them a little bit. The fixture, you know, the history of the fixture is very one-sided. Last 13 meetings at, not just at the Etihad, the last 13 meetings full stop, City have won them all against Burnley with an aggregate score of 46-2. So they have a very long history of scoring goals against Man City, either Burnley. So, yeah, I just think 2-0, 3-0, 4-0, 5-0. I see this as these are the most likely scorelines here. I don't think Burnley are going to trouble them. Burnley were valiant, weren't they, when going down 1-0 at home to Liverpool, but still didn't really create anything in that game. Nothing much of note. And this is away at the Etihad. So, yeah, I'm going to back City to win, obviously, but with a clean sheet. It's about 1.8.
Happy days. Insights.matchbook.com, full recap of all the guys' selections, a good one to keep track throughout the weekend. We'll be back on Monday to preview the Champions League match day 2, and then following that with Premier League. It's the busy time of year, not just football, but sport throughout. Can check out our NFL podcast, horse racing podcast, and Irish Greyhound final this weekend as well. But yeah, we'll chat to you on Monday. Enjoy the weekend's football. Bye-bye.